Story 1. A couple of days ago, my parents were upset with me for not meeting their expectations. I envy people who do not care what their parents think of them. Story 2. March 14th, 2024. I had to put my dog down due to cancer. He was with me for 11 years. I cried my heart out when I found out I had to put him down, and cried even more when we actually did it. Rest in peace, little buddy. We will meet again. Story 3. I cried because I am overwhelmed. I am now debt-free, finally, after my hard work. I can say now that this house is mine. Story 4. Just yesterday, because my head keeps arguing with itself and certain tones act like a dog whistle to me, driving me insane. Story 5. Today, for the state my country is in, the division being sown, the bill that just passed, and the people at the bottom who are getting crushed for the rich, I am a woman, a mother, an American, and I am ashamed, scared, and heartbroken. Story 6. Today, a couple of work friends died in a horrific accident. People I have worked with for almost 20 years. Story 7. Yesterday, I got home from work, sat down on my couch, and just started crying. I feel like we are all living in the twilight zone, but we are forced to pretend everything is fine. My country is a shell of itself and going backwards. 60% of us, that is most people, are living in a world where a minimal quality of life is out of reach. It is not just you. It is me. It is our neighbors. It is the person sitting next to us in traffic. It is our difficult bosses, the barista at Starbucks. It is most of us. We are being overwhelmed by a small group of people who have never cared about others. They are driven by money and power alone. And yes, yelling into the void about it will not help, so I cried. Story 8. This morning. Yesterday, my sweet orange cat suddenly dropped dead. It is suspected that he had a heart attack due to a heart defect. He was only 3 years old. I found him right after a strange thud noise, lying in my hallway, gone. Story 9. Yesterday, I cried hard in therapy about how empty I feel. I am a working mother who handles the majority of the parenting, and I have nothing left in my tank. Story 10. Yesterday around noon, I was undergoing early treatment for stage 3 melanoma. Massive fatigue and weakness made performing dentistry somewhat difficult. I almost couldn't finish a procedure on a patient in a wheelchair because my body was giving out from standing. After I finished, I felt so frustrated and pathetic that I became emotional for a few minutes. Story 11. Last Thursday, a large, extra-large bully-type dog attacked my Jack Russell and me from behind as soon as we stepped out of the garden gate. We had no clue what was about to happen. I have never heard a dog scream before, and I never want to hear it again, especially from my usually happy, carefree little lad. I managed to get away before he was too badly injured, but Spike had bites on his belly and both front legs and was limping for several days. The worst thing now is the fear. He is really nervous about going out. I have to coax him until he understands that everything is okay. Story 12. Last July, when I walked out the front door of my brother's house, I knew that it would be the last time I ever saw him. Then, 2 weeks later, I finally got the call from my mother. Story 13. A couple of days ago, because of the soulmate so hard trend on TikTok, I started thinking about my senior dog and having to put him to sleep once his heart issues give out. I cried as if he was already gone. Story 14. The last time I had a legitimate cry that was not just misty eyes from something kind of sad was 2 years ago when we had to put our Great Dane down due to acute leukemia. He was only 7 years old and was the best dog I have ever had. Story 15. Today, I am thinking about what my mother went through with cancer. She is fine now, but she endured a lot. Story 16. Today at 3 to 4 a.m., I was chatting with artificial intelligence about my life. It managed to find the reason why I am depressed. I was already feeling upset, and this made me feel terrible. Story 17. It has been 1 week and 2 days since I found out my boyfriend cheated. I cry all the time, but only once today. I am so proud of myself. Story 18. The culmination of all the difficulties in my life hit me. I shed a single tear and looked forward. Forget the past. Story 19. Today, while driving to the university, a song played that resonated with thoughts I have had lately. Story 20. It was a couple of months ago when I shared my feelings with Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. But now I do not cry anymore, although nothing has changed for the better. Story 21. This past Saturday, after 3 weeks with my mom following my complicated criminal brother's suicide, I got home after being away for a month. I was completely fine. Then suddenly my heart felt like it was in both my toes and throat at the same time. My digestive system went haywire, and I uncontrollably cried every 15 minutes or so. It was very strange. I was logically okay with the situation. I was emotionally okay with the situation. I had taken care of everyone and everything just fine. But my brain and automatic nervous system had a full meltdown as soon as I was back home in my own house. Then I slept for the next 48 hours, only awake about 6 hours per day. Story 22. I cried last night mostly due to my own self-pity. I saw a picture on social media of my old friends hanging out without me, and it felt strange. Story 23. My dog had a seizure a few months ago, and I did not know what to do. It was very intense. I had not had him that long, but if I was unsure before that night, I knew after that I truly love my dog. Story 24. Had a mini cry just 5 minutes ago. Today was overwhelming and strange. I had to release some pressure. Story 25. Last weekend, I was denied a medal at my regional competition because my partner did not show up. After some persuasion, they decided to give me a bronze medal. I will receive it this weekend. Story 26. I cry occasionally since the divorce, but mainly because I feel like a bad father. My patience levels have been low since the split in December, and I get angry more often and more quickly than I used to. I don't like it, but I can't afford therapy right now for myself or the children. They deserve more than I can give them right now, both emotionally and financially. But I am the only parent they have until their mother gets settled on her own and we can start the shared custody arrangement we want. They would stay with her in the summers and maybe winters, and with me the rest of the year. Story 27. I do not remember the exact last time because I cannot cry easily. However, it was because of my father who struggled with alcoholism, drug addiction, and schizophrenia. Story 28. In 2013, I dropped my kebab in Sheffield, United Kingdom, after slipping on the wet tram tracks. I really wanted that kebab. Story 29. I am a newly certified birth doula and just attended my first birth. It was beautiful, and on the way home I cried. It was overwhelming in the best way. Story 30. Last night, I had troubles and needed money. I am getting old, and my body is failing. Maybe this is the new survival of the fittest. Even then, I will die a very uncomfortable death. Peaceful death costs money. Ha! Story 31. 10 a.m. today, I went back to work 4 weeks after my miscarriage. My manager said, "Coming back to work will help you get over it." Story 32. A few minutes ago, anxiety from too much stress and family overwhelmed me. A lot has been going on, more than usual, and it just gets worse every day. My mental health was already struggling, and now it is one thing after another. Please do not tell me to go to therapy. I have been doing that for years, and it is not what I need to hear right now. Story 33. I cried in my car on the way back from a prenatal appointment. My doctor explained that I had diabetes and high blood pressure. It could possibly harm my baby if I do not manage my health properly. It was a lot to take in all at once. Story 34. This morning, I cried. I cry every day. My 2 daughters refused to speak to me. I have not spoken to them in months. Story 35. Last week, I dropped my Taco Bell Crunchwrap in the parking lot. It hit the ground hard. Story 36. A few days ago, I was asked about my thoughts on a game I am playing for the first time. It is Chrono Trigger. Story 37. This morning on my way to work, and yesterday, I realized I need a new job. The money is not sufficient, and it is too dangerous for the pay I receive. I just cannot seem to find anything that pays what I need. Story 38. Today, I went to my daughter's school to give the guidance counselor a special end-of-year gift because she is leaving and going to private practice. She was a huge part of helping my daughter through this year, and I am very grateful to her. Story 39. Yesterday, there is something about the mere thought of your child that can instantly bring tears to your eyes, especially when they are becoming an older sibling in a few short weeks. Where has the time gone? Story 40. Last night, I was dealing with an unpleasant health issue, stress from trying to receive timely medical care, and worrying about how much it is all going to cost, even with insurance. I was also concerned about what kind of support will be available for me after surgery. Story 41. A couple of weeks ago, I was on the way home from the hospital when a friend told us the news that they were being transferred to hospice care. It was a lot to digest. Their situation came on unexpectedly and very quickly, and their spouse had just passed away a few months earlier. Story 42. I am pretty sure it was when my last girlfriend and I broke up, which was about 5 years ago now. I am not trying to be macho or anything. Crying is such a healthy release. I am just pretty messed up, so my emotional responses are off. I just do not cry. I wish I did though. Cry it out, people. Story 43. Yesterday, because of the story I was reading, I realized that I tend to use stories from television, books, manga, and similar sources as a safe way to express my emotions. When I feel overwhelmed, I read something that I know will give me the opportunity to cry. I have a hard time letting go of the things that are truly overwhelming me, but the pressure needs to be relieved somehow. Story 44. Yesterday, I accidentally ran over a baby prairie dog that crossed the road. Oh wait, I cried twice this morning at dog videos. Then I cried silently inside a little at every news headline notification from my phone. Can someone please just send me puppies and a snack and silence my notifications until the collapse of the empire? Story 45. 2 days ago, I was told I need a hysterectomy due to aggressive precancerous cells in my cervix and uterus. I am 27 years old and have no children. Now, I am worried I will never be a mother. Story 46. Today, I am frustrated with the meaninglessness of life. In the end, it makes no difference whether I do something or nothing today. It makes no difference whether I exist or not. It makes no difference whether anyone exists or whether the human race exists. We are just struggling to postpone our inevitable deaths. Non-existence would have the same result without the struggle. There is no value in anyone, anything, or any action. Any perceived value is just pretend value you assign to keep yourself from quitting as a biological means of survival. And yet I feel obligated to stay alive because my wife enjoys my company and God might exist. I wish I could be sure he did not, so I could completely abandon morality. Story 47. I am not a crier like once in 3 years or so, but that was it. Story 48. Today, because I am transgender, it washed over me once again how much the people who hate us truly hate us. Story 49. I am crying right now. I am a transgender man, and I had not had a menstrual period in 2 years until a couple of days ago, when it unexpectedly returned. Experiencing a bodily function I thought I would never have to deal with again is strangely traumatizing. I have been crying quite consistently. Story 55 minutes ago, I watched The Last of Us. Oh man, Pedro Pascal's shaky voice in the final scene with Ellie broke me. My husband and I are sitting here, bawling our eyes out. Story 51. All day today, my best friend of over 20 years found out her daughter has leukemia. That sweet baby girl is my goddaughter. The universe is cruel sometimes. Story 52. About 4 months ago, when my husband woke up from surgery in the intensive care unit after a stroke, he could not speak, did not recognize me, had a feeding tube through his nose, and had to be restrained because he was pulling the tube out and trying to get up. I cried when I got home that night. He is much better now. Story 53. This video. I have a son with autism, and if he can eventually walk across a stage with his peers, with everyone being so kind and accommodating like this, I know I would lose it. Story 54. 2 nights ago, because this is the only life I get, I will never know what it is like to not have a nerve disease. I will never know what it is like to not have a damaged heart. I will never know what it is like to have a twisted spine. I will always face bigotry and be mistreated for being transgender as well. Although I do not wish to be someone else, It is strange to me that I will never experience a typical life like everyone else. I will always be considered disabled, and the worst people will always see me as a degenerate. One day I will be gone. There are no second chances to get what everyone else has. Story 55. The last couple of days, I have been diagnosed with periodontal disease, and it is aggressive. I am currently getting a second opinion on treatment, but I am scared for the future. It is especially difficult because my teeth genuinely look fine. On top of that, one of my best friends, a guy I have been talking to, has severe health issues and we do not know what his outcome will be. He is holding on and taking it one day at a time, but watching him essentially become a shell of his former self has been heartbreaking. I have not felt this depressed in a while. Story 56. Last Friday, I was watching a play that reminded me of my deceased grandfather. Unfortunately, I have not fully gotten over his death, even though it was 8 years ago, partly because in occupational therapy, I was taught to suppress my negative emotions such as grief and anger. Story 57. Today, school is almost over, but I do not know what to do about the fact that I think my friends hate me. I just have to endure 3 more weeks. Then I am done. Story 58. Now, pent-up feelings and old wounds are resurfacing, along with feeling anxious these past days. My heart hurts. Story 59. Back in 2022, I was drunk for the first time in my life. I thought it was so embarrassing that I told myself I would never cry again. Story 60. A few minutes ago, the point-of-sale partner demanded that our baby have his name on the birth certificate and said he is not signing it. He has been missing in action this whole time. Story 61. I legitimately shed a couple of tears watching the end of Holes last weekend. Little moments like that during movies are not uncommon, but the last big cry was at my father's funeral 2 years ago. Story 62. Had a strange reaction from mixing Vyvanse and marijuana last Sunday. I started to experience persistent genital arousal disorder. I cried uncontrollably. It was unbearable. I lost my dignity when I called my doctor and pharmacist about it. I am now recovering with pseudoephedrine but remain anxious that the symptoms will return. Story 63. Thunderbolts. When Sentry starts making people disappear using his powers. It was visually terrifying for me. Story 64. A month ago, when my daughter told me she had been assaulted, I felt like a failure for not being there to protect her. Story 65. I don't cry very often, but I did yesterday. Spotify played sad songs from my eldest sister playlist, which made me cry on the short drive home. Story 66. 2 days ago, my relationship stopped making me happy. It is mostly exhausting, but my boyfriend still means a lot to me as a person. I also feel responsible for his mental health because he talks to literally no one besides me about it. I do not know what to do. It is overwhelming. Story 67. Yesterday, it was my son's first time performing on stage. He is 6 years old. It was for a choral competition. Watching him perform, I had happy tears. Story 68. Last night, briefly before I fell asleep, I was thinking of the cat we lost to cancer 8 years ago. It still tears me up from time to time. Story 69. A few days ago, maybe last night, I was thinking about how lucky I am to be with my boyfriend. He is my best friend. A year ago, I was still crying over my ex because he broke up with me. The relationship was very toxic, and I was really heartbroken. Looking back, I am so grateful that happened because it led me to my boyfriend. We have been together for 9 months, and I feel so loved and appreciated. My love for him is growing and deepening. I still cry almost every day because of it. I still can't believe it. Story 70. Yesterday, I worked at a call center. Normally, I have a thick skin when it comes to aggressive callers. However, one caller got under my skin so much that it bothered me. I have a name that is clearly not American, and she used many racial slurs against me, besides just being overall unpleasant. I disconnected the line after giving her 2 verbal warnings, but once I hung up the call, I cried. Story 71. This morning, I woke up after a difficult dream that brought back a lot of childhood trauma. I took the morning to process it. Story 72. Tuesday. Had to see my general practitioner because I feel awful due to hypothyroidism. I am feeling terrible right now and really cannot function properly. Story 73. I cried this morning on my way to a doctor's appointment because I was listening to an episode of Chicago Fire. Herman said some really sweet words to Gabby, and I wasn't able to hold back my tears. Story 74. I cry inside a bit every time I see pictures from the 1990s. I miss those years and would trade the last 25 years for those 10 years. Story 75. If you asked my coworkers, they would tell you this morning, but realistically, I have not had a good cry session in a month. Story 76. Last week, I was seeing a guy who is a horrible communicator for about a month. I was really emotional about planning to walk away from him and then being alone. I am fine now, though. Story 77. Tuesday evening, I signed up for a dinner organized by a company that matches you with 4 to 5 other people to meet and hopefully get along with. Nobody showed up during the entire hour I was at the restaurant, which was also more expensive than what I had chosen in my preferences. Story 78. This morning, my husband was very difficult. I am done giving him chances. The stress of it all is overwhelming. Story 79. I have a severe head cold that has progressed into my chest, and I have to help finish bodywork on a truck within the next 48 hours. My mom keeps bringing sickness home from work, so we have all been sick about every 5 months. We are people who rarely get sick, but since she started her customer service job, it has been constant. Last night and the night before, I took NyQuil and just sat coughing uncontrollably. I would fall asleep and wake up coughing violently. Last night, I woke up coughing so hard that my head, throat, and back hurt. My sides started cramping because I was contorting to cough into a bag. I felt like I was going to throw up. I am sore from working on this truck, so it all built up. I screamed, then just started sobbing. I already had streams of tears from my sinuses burning. I am exhausted. If you are sick, stay home. Stop returning things while you are sick. You could seriously harm someone from your urgent need to return a $6 item, if you haven't already. Story 80. At a Toastmasters event, the speaker talked about a meaningful job they had. Mixing a child's heartbeat into music so parents could have something to remember their child after loss. I know this loss all too well. It has been 20 years. I thought I could handle it until they said they do this work because of their own infant loss and mentioned the child's name, which happened to be the same as my child's name. I left the room and cried in the bathroom. Story 81. About 30 minutes ago, I recently broke up with my boyfriend, the father of my child, 2 days ago and am now going through it all. Story 82. About 2 hours ago, my foster cat was being protective of her babies when my own cat growled at a kitten. She went on the attack. I happened to be holding my cat. I cried because it hurt, because it was not her fault, and also because this is the second time she has done it. I was just sad. Story 83. Today, my children, aged 23, 28, and 24, have to learn how to live without their father, their mentor, their best friend. I have to continue for however long I live without my soulmate. I have to be both a father and a mother when I can barely breathe, when I don't even feel human. I'm terrified I'm going to let them down. I'm terrified I won't be enough. I'm terrified I'm going to make some colossal mistake that I won't be able to fix. I'm scared I won't have the strength, even though I need it more than ever. It's beginning to settle in, and I am terrified. Story 84. Today, I was supposed to go to the hospital because I feel suicidal, but I got scared when I saw other patients who were schizophrenic and some had handcuffs. So I went home still feeling suicidal. Story 85. Monday, I was surrounded by family the previous weeks, but this Monday I woke up and finally realized I was alone at home again. So I cried. Story 86. A few days ago in the car, I said something funny to myself out loud. I talked to myself a lot and thought about how my ex would have laughed. I have been doing well lately and moving on, so it caught me by surprise imagining her smiling in the passenger seat. I started crying while laughing. Story 87. My friend thanked me for my support and encouragement in his artistic endeavors. I started to cry, then told him he has a silly face. Story 88. A couple of days ago, I was watching a We Rate Dogs compilation of shelter and foster dogs reacting to being kissed. It was so sweet. I have fully turned into my mother, crying at everything even slightly emotional. Story 89. Today, my mother is having health issues and cannot fly down for my birthday. I'm mainly worried about her, but also sad that I will not get to spend any time with her soon. Story 90. Today, one of my best friends suddenly died this morning. There was no illness, no warning signs. His body just stopped. He was not even in his 50s yet. Story 91. This morning, I listened to Conan Gray's songs, Family Line and then The Story. Both always make me sob like a baby, but I needed to cry, and Conan came through. Story 92. The day before yesterday, I cried because I realized I needed to wash dishes to make dinner while I was already in the process of making dinner. Story 93. Yesterday was the first time in over a year my husband said I neglect our daughter when all I do is worry about everyone but myself. It really hurt. Story 94. Last week, I had been desperately looking for work since October, and last Friday, even a temporary agency turned me down. The frustration was too much. Story 95. I visited my mother in the hospital earlier this year. She got better, thanks to the doctors, but it hit me like a freight train. Always being mature and strong for my family, I couldn't take it anymore. Story 96. Stupid cry? I rewatched the finale of Schitt's Creek. Emotional cry? My boyfriend passed away 5 years ago, and his birthday was a few weeks ago. Just going down memory lane and remembering birthdays of the past. Story 97. Dumb stress at work and all the busyness going on. I work at a grocery store, but sometimes I snap and look like a complete moron. Story 98. I cry very rarely, but a few days ago I saw a clip where a woman was holding her dog as he was being put to sleep. He literally died in her arms, and as he was dying, he leaned in to hug her one last time. That really hit me. It is enough to make a grown man cry. Story 99. I cry over Tiki the foster dog and basically any foster pet story daily whenever the posts appear on TikTok. It is devastating how some people treat animals, but it is also inspiring and heartwarming to see how resilient animals are. We do not deserve dogs. Story 100. A couple of weeks ago, there was an AskReddit thread asking for stories of people who have been with dying individuals and what were the strangest or most remarkable things they said or did as they neared death. Many stories described people knowing when they were going to die or seeing loved ones in the room right before passing. It was very sad and very beautiful, but the one that affected me deeply was about someone's grandpa. Right before he passed, his face lit up, and he said a name no one in the family recognized. Like he was absolutely joyous to see that person. The family tried for a long time to figure out who this person was but could not. After the grandmother died, they began going through her belongings and found an old box of pictures. There was a picture of their grandpa as a little boy with his dog. That was who he saw. At 45 years old, I have lost pets that I have loved more than any human being on this planet. The thought of seeing them again on the other side made me break down and cry. Story 101. Dog passing in our arms. As a 25-year-old man, I rarely show emotions. I have cried in front of my partner, my parents, and my sister, and none of them have seen me cry since I was probably about 6 or 7 years old. My girlfriend did not know me then. Story 102. 2 days ago, I went to a fast food interview, and they told me they were not looking to hire for short term. I do not know why I cried. I did not want the job anyway. Story 103. Because I am tired of my boyfriend's alcoholism. I missed my birthday and slept all day. Nothing was organized. Not even a dinner at my favorite restaurant, which is not expensive. I have never felt so alone. I do not care about birthdays usually. I think I am just fed up. I cried all day, then shared my trauma on Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer, then cried some more. Story 104. I cried yesterday after learning that going to intensive outpatient care would cost $200 each week. This is a preventative cost. Story 105. About a week ago, I visited my long-distance boyfriend and had to leave him on the 10th. I cried every night after coming home for several days. Story 106. I made an appointment and only realized after hanging up that the appointment is on the first anniversary of my father's death. Story 107. 7 years ago, I broke up with my girlfriend whom I loved dearly. I cried all the way home during the 40-minute drive. Couldn't cry since. Story 108. Today I said goodbye to my class. I had them as first, third, and fourth graders. Definitely bittersweet. Story 109. I honestly can't remember. I even laughed at my grandmother's funeral while everyone was playing kazoos. They thought I was crying. Story 110. A few weeks ago, I was very overwhelmed by everything. Little did I know I would later get a severe cold and an ear infection. Story 111. My dad passed away in January from cancer. My birthday is the day before his, on May 16th, and I went home to Texas to be with family. I cried because this was the first time I had not heard his voice or received a text from him. Our birthday ritual of him calling or texting me, and then the next day I call or text him, is over. Story 112. Just the other day, the town north of me was destroyed by a tornado. It was not the destruction that stood out, but the outpouring of support. Everyone in the area and surrounding communities showed up bright and early, ready to work. Donations flooded in and volunteers were on the ground. It was completely unprompted. They just showed up prepared to help. It was beautiful. There is still a long way to go, but there is definitely hope. Story 113. It has been a few years. I have experienced some sad events during that time, but I am not someone who expresses emotions through crying. Story 114. A couple of days ago, I was feeling stressed. I am a single mother of 2 children. One is a toddler and the other is a teenager. I have a stressful job and am managing a move with my partner, all while dealing with my own trauma and abandonment issues. I hope everything goes well, and I believe it will. In the meantime, everything feels like it is in a black box of time. I am not one for leaps of faith, and this is new for me. Story 115. Watching the anime Monster 3 days ago. An episode where there is a story behind it. We do not get a flashback, but the story is told by the one who committed the crime and adopted the girl whose parents he killed. At the end, he grew fond of the protagonist and was finally able to see the girl smile. Later, she accepted him as a father figure, which made him cry. I do not know, I just have a weak spot for these parental scenarios. Story 116. It was in the shower. I had finished half a bottle of whiskey by myself and was watching some Korean drama. I don't know why, but I suddenly broke down crying. It was just weird because the thought I had was that I don't have friends, but just the day before, I had met 7 out of 8 of my friends. I still don't know what happened, but since then I have built some mechanisms in my daily life to counter anxiety and pressure. Story 117. About 45 minutes ago, a local newspaper interviewed my fiancé about a fundraiser he started for me, and the article moved me to tears. Story 118. Constant crying from the newborn, paired with feeling awful for lashing out at everyone due to feeling overwhelmed and nearly crashing my car all in one morning. Story 119. I missed my dad and was absent-mindedly humming Slipping Through My Fingers by ABBA when one of my data points came out 0.614. I stared off into space for a while after I let some tears fall. Story 120. Last weekend, my computer stopped working and I had to reinstall Microsoft Windows. It was not due to a fault with the computer itself, but rather the accumulation of many tasks that overwhelmed me, and the computer was the final breaking point. Story 121. Last summer, I cried. Every year at the end of my vacation, I cry because I have to return to the country where I have worked for 12 years. It is 2,000 kilometers away from my elderly parents. Every time I say goodbye to them, I think it might be the last time I hug them. Story 122. I cry a lot. Recently, I cried over something my friend said that was very sweet, and we cried together. I never knew you could have a crying companion. Story 123. Yesterday, I realized how little time my happy family of 6 has left under one roof. My daughter is leaving for a summer job in a few weeks and will be moving into her first apartment in the fall. Sigh. Story 124. Last week, Thursday to be exact. My child graduated from high school and will be attending Louisiana State University in the fall. Story 125. Last night, I was watching Novocaine and I cried 4 times. The date, the intimacy, the reveal, and the end all moved me. I have been going through some stress with a friendship and relationship, and thematically it aligns somewhat with how I have been feeling about things. Story 126. Technically still crying. I got dumped by my ex-girlfriend on my mom's birthday out of the blue, and she said I was making her uncomfortable for being upset. It messes me up mentally as I believed I was secure enough. But now I feel so many emotions it makes me feel like I'm spinning. I'm currently holding my stuffed gingerbread man while tearing up. Story 127. Yesterday, about a month ago, I ended a 10-year relationship, half of which we were married. Today I woke up happy. Story 128. My little dog has seizures. The medications help keep them few and far between. But the other day, she was having an episode, and I cried while holding her, knowing her life will be cut short. Story 129. Last night, I felt lonely. I do not have any close relationships. I know many people, but I guess I crave feeling cared for or having someone to be close to. Oh well, I have a dog I got recently. Maybe that will be enough. Story 130. 2 nights ago, I realized everything I am going through is my fault, and I had to accept it. It was a very tough pill to swallow. Story 131. According to my notes, March 13th, I realized I would not be able to compete because of a shoulder injury. According to PIXA, May 2nd, I was feeling stressed while calling the doctor and insurance about my shoulder, appointments, and money. I cried a lot about my shoulder. Story 132. Last night, we had to take my 12-year-old cat to the 24-hour emergency veterinarian. She had surgery 2 weeks ago. The doctor removed her stitches and said she was good to take the cone off and do whatever she wanted. At home, the entire incision tore open, leaving a gaping split on her head. The last time I was at an emergency veterinarian was when my childhood 14-year-old Labrador, Shadow, had a grand mal seizure at home. We rushed him in, but this was during the COVID-19 pandemic, so we couldn't go in with him. He couldn't walk on his own after the seizure, so they had to come out and place him on a gurney to roll him in. The last time I saw my baby alert was as he was being rolled into the veterinarian by strangers while I stood by my car and watched. He just stared into my eyes the entire way, probably scared and confused about why I wasn't coming with him. That memory, looking into his eyes as he was being wheeled away, confused, scared, probably in pain, tortures me. I couldn't be with him and it kills me. It plays on repeat sometimes, and I can't stop myself from crying every time I think about it. Even right now, he had another massive seizure while he was there. By the time we were able to come back, he was so drugged that he was not even awake, just sedated and whining. He could not have known we were there. He had blood on his mouth because they said his seizure was so severe he was seriously injuring himself. There was nothing that could be done. We had to let him go. I hugged him and held my hand up to his nose, which calmed his whining, even just a little. Then the medication was administered and he passed. Back to last night, when we arrived at the emergency veterinarian for my cat, the first thing I saw was the gurney behind the doors. I immediately started sobbing. The memory of Shadow watching me as he was wheeled away, my worry and concern for my cat, overwhelmed me. While we were there, I saw many other pets coming in. I will not go into detail, but some of it was horrific, devastating. I listened to a man sob as he told the veterinarian he wanted to be with his dog when she was euthanized. My cat is okay. She was stitched back up and has to wear a hard cone for another 2 weeks. We had to spend much more money than we have, but she is okay, and that is what matters. I am very grateful for that. The veterinarian staff were absolutely amazing, and I am so thankful for them and everyone else in that position. My dream during high school was to be a veterinarian, but I am honestly glad it did not pan out because it takes a strong person to be able to deal with that day in and day out. Thank you. Story 133. About 2 hours ago, a friend came over and she was sobbing. It made me cry. I am a highly sensitive person, so I cry easily. Story 134. I looked over my medical information from a traumatic accident. I was just a child. That poor kid. I sobbed uncontrollably. I gave my dog the biggest hugs. Now he will not leave my side. Make sure you appreciate the furry friend who catches your tears. Story 135. Last week I listened to a national public radio story about how food banks are going to run out of food, and I cried. I do not rely on food banks, but I know others do, and I cannot even imagine how devastating it would be to rely on a food bank and then have the food bank run out of food. I am also coming up on my menstrual period, so that had some influence. Story 136. A few days ago, depression, anxiety, still trying to get over my ex, extreme loneliness, and stress about losing my scholarship all contributed. Story 137. This morning in the shower, my significant other is almost 2 weeks into his stay at rehabilitation. It is much harder than I thought it would be, and I am incredibly worried about what the future holds. Story 138. May 17, 2025. Crystal Palace, a team I have supported for over 40 years, won their first major trophy in the club's history. Story 139. About an hour ago, it was my brother's birthday, but he committed suicide 3 years ago. It is always a hard day. His death anniversary is a week and a half from today. Story 140. Monday, because despite my boss advocating for my pay to be raised to at least the starting pay of new hires in my same position, I found out that I am only getting the standard 2% like everyone else. I knew I did not stand much of a chance because I work for the state in agriculture and we did not get much money, but we both thought that maybe they might give me a little extra. Even though I knew it was probably coming, it was still a little disappointing. Story 141. This afternoon, since my ex left me a month ago, every day has been worse and harder than the last. Today, my mother gave a passing "Are you all right?" as I walked past her, and I just broke down. I am not all right, not even a little bit. Story 142. I don't remember exactly the last time, but not long ago I was crying because I was thinking about leaving my boyfriend. His family doesn't like me, and I don't want to cause trouble between them. Story 143. Yesterday, when I saw my ex with his new partner, she was practically perfect. They looked so happy, and I am happy for them. At the same time, I am still miserable inside. It broke my heart all over again and made me feel so alone. Story 144. I never cry, but a few days ago, I got drunk and a woman I really look up to told me she was proud of me as I hugged her, and I just couldn't hold it in. It meant a lot, especially because I thought she was mad at me earlier in the day. In general, I usually only cry when I'm happy. Story 145. A really hard cry. That was 7 years ago when my Great Dane passed away at 12 years and 2 months of age. I got him when he was 10 weeks old. I still have a hard time when I think about him or come across old photos of him. Story 146. It was strange. My daughter had her 4th grade concert yesterday and sang, "Don't Give Up on Me," and I cried a little. I was so proud of her, and just the feeling of love came over me. Sometimes, I can't believe that little girl came from me. It is just unusual, maybe because it is something I never thought I would have. A family, a home, things that many times we take for granted. Story 147. Last night, watching a silly show, I shed a couple of tears. Last week, when I finished The Midnight Library, I absolutely sobbed. Story 148. About 10 years ago, when I was trying to act pathetic, I did not know the meaning of crying. I just learned how to force tears from other people when the situation was appropriate and adapted accordingly. I do not know how or why. Story 149. On Sunday, I reflected on Saturday night. I do not know why, but I was crying because it had been such a fun night. I do not have moments like that very often. Story 150. Today during therapy, I told one of my coworkers how much I appreciate them. I don't cry much, but this week has been so heavy with grief that I have cried every day for 3 days straight. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.